Are wearable devices the future of health and wellness? Today's episode will take our first step towards a new technology called Taopatch that's been making inroads in the health and wellness industry over the years, and this is just the beginning. Welcome back to Season 10 of the Neuroscience Meets Social and Emotional Learning podcast, where we connect the science-based evidence behind social and emotional learning that's finally being taught in our schools today and emotional intelligence training used in our modern workplaces for improved well-being, achievement, productivity, and results. Using what I saw as the missing link, the application of practical neuroscience. I'm Andrea Samadi, an author and an educator with a passion for learning, and launched this podcast 5 years ago with the goal of bringing all the leading experts together in one place to uncover the most current research that would bring back how the brain learns best by taking us all to new and often unimaginable heights. On today's episode number 318, we have Dmitri Leonov. He's the founder of Taopatch USA. Taopatch is a nanotechnology device that uses light therapy with acupuncture. When I see a product that's new, nicknamed the Human Upgrade Device, that addresses health and wellness, enhances physical performance, boosts energy levels, relieves pain, while being used by some of the top world-class athletes and kept a secret for a competitive advantage, I want to know what it is. Dmitri reached out to me and offered to share what they've discovered with the intersection of technology, wellness, and spirituality, and how they're combining traditional methods like acupuncture with modern technology like light therapy and nanotechnology. I can't even tell you how much I'm interested in learning more, especially as I'm personally exploring new technologies on this podcast. So when something innovative comes my way, there's no hesitation to make this interview happen. Let's meet the CEO of Taopatch USA, Dmitri Leonov, and see if he'll reveal the secrets from the athletes he's seen using Taopatch as one of their best kept secrets in their careers, and what results they're attaining with this new nanotechnology for health and wellness. Welcome, Dmitri Leonov. Where have we reached you in the world today?
I am calling in from Miami.
Awesome. And you normally, Taopatch is international, is that right? Where are you based out of?
Yeah. So our all of kind of our manufacturing and research and development is in Italy.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, this is an honor to have you today. When I first saw what you have created with Taopatch, and I was drawn to learn more because this is what the podcast is about. It's about helping people with whatever's new in the world with health and wellness to make us improve, be better 2.0 versions of ourselves. So I just really want to thank you for making this happen today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, before we get to this fascinating health and wellness product, I wonder what was in your background as an entrepreneur that drew you towards Taopatch with your past?
Sure thing. So, well, actually, I come from tech background, but more on the internet side. So I spent a few years in a company called Overture, which got acquired by Yahoo, and then started another software startup. And a few years ago, I really got into, I kind of realized that health and wellness is really where it's at. And it's really the problem that should be solved, considering everything that's going on in the world and all the stresses that we live with and the toll that it's taking on our health. And so I didn't invent Taopatch. So Taopatch was invented by a very brilliant man in Italy named Fabio Fontana. And Fabio had a really bad accident a few years ago, which made him realize that, well, for him, the only thing that helped him recover was light therapy. And that was kind of the initial drive behind Taopatch. He realized that light therapy, while is really helpful and can do amazing things. And by the way, I at the time I didn't know much about it. Most people don't really know a whole lot about light therapy, but there are literally 9,700 published peer-reviewed studies on light therapy, published on PubMed, which is the National Library of Studies. And so it's a really well-researched form of medicine. And our product, we don't claim to reinvent the wheel in the sense that we kind of piggyback on all of the research and the science that has been done on light therapy and what light can do for your body. But our really unique advantage, and what Fabio realized, is that we can, or Fabio realized, I mean, the problem with light therapy is that it's very bulky. Um, it's stationary by nature, right? Most light therapy products are big things that require power supply of some kind, usually plugging into a wall, and some more modern devices have a battery, but they're also like, it's something you have to kind of strap on, and not something you really would wear. And we've figured out how to make it super wearable. So this is what Taopatch looks like. So it really doesn't look like a device. It looks more like a little plastic coin. But our unique advantage is the nanomaterial that we've developed. And so this nanomaterial has a very set of unique qualities that make it a very, very wearable device. And it can be worn for 2.5 years without batteries, and have you kind of take advantage of light therapy 24/7, which is something that wasn't really available before. And so, and very long-winded answer to your question, but I was drawn to this because I've realized that health and wellness is really the area where I want to be spending my focus, and wearables is specifically the part that I want to focus on, because um, there's a lot of technological developments out there, but making them accessible all the time or throughout our day is really what is going to make most of the difference.
Now,
And
Dimitri,
also,
as you're talking, I'm kind of wondering and trying to make connections here because that's what I try to do. Does the light therapy have to do with the fact that all these saunas now have red light therapy, or are they two different technologies? Is it kind of the same idea?
similar. So light therapy is a broad term, right? So it's every being in the sun is light therapy, right? It's
Yeah.
um, there are several different kinds of or many different kinds of wavelengths, right? So if you look at the spectrum of light, it's or I guess starting from the side,
Yeah.
depending on which where's the left, where's the right. Ultra infrared is on the far left, and then you have red, orange, all the colors of the rainbow, and then infrared. And depending on the specific wavelength of the color, there are different benefits. So there are different benefits to near infrared or far infrared. So depending on the spectrum. The sauna, there's infrared specifically is interesting because it has you can just apply it everywhere, right, on your body. So being in a sauna is really helpful. Um, the same can apply to ultraviolet as well. But the specific kind of light therapy that we're talking about um, is closer to what's called low-level laser therapy. And low-level laser therapy is a very it's kind of what it sounds like. It's where you point a not so strong laser uh, on your body, and it's usually done when you have an injury, or yeah, it's usually for injury recovery. it's been shown in many studies to significantly aid in recovering from anything with muscle or bone um, damage,
Oh.
and kind of speeding up the recovery process.
Okay, so how does it work? I have watched some of your podcasts in the past that you've done, and I'll link them so that you don't have to repeat the wheel with everything. But basically, I'm putting on this towel patch to something that I've got injured on me. Let's just say I told you I had a sore neck, and so I put the towel patch here, or am I supposed to put it on the meridian points?
Mm.
How does it work?
It's a great question. So there are a couple of different applications, and so the funny thing is, a little bit of history of this. Initially, when Fabio thought of the where to place them, or thought of the whole idea, it was really designed for recovery from injury and then from pain and chronic pain as well. And there have been applications of light therapy for pain. And so with Taopatch, you actually can place it wherever you have pain, where it's injury related or just, chronic pain or tension or yeah, anything that hurts.
Okay.
However, what we've discovered over the last, what is it now, 8 years, is that depending on where you place it on the body, and this is where the Chinese medicine and the meridians come from, or come into play, the benefits can be just vast, right? And some of the things we discovered completely by accident. For example, probably the group of people that we've been able to help the most over the years is people with multiple sclerosis. And we have discovered completely by accident that this is what happens. One of the doctors that was working with Taopatch happened to have a patient with multiple sclerosis, and he placed it on two of the key meridian points, one on your sternum, one on your spine. And the person was in a wheelchair, and literally within the same session got up and started walking. Like it was miraculous. And that led us to conduct a study. We have 17 published studies at this point. We've done several of them that are placebo controlled, and very lengthy studies as well. And we've just figured out that we can do amazing things for people with MS, which then we extrapolated to other neurological disorders. So we have a ton of people with Parkinson's, fibromyalgia, and other neurological disorders. And honestly, we are kind of still discovering what this thing can do, because depending on where you place it, which acupoints and which meridians and which protocols you want to be using, it can it can it can achieve incredible results. And really, whatever you can use acupuncture for, which is just about everything, you can also use Taopatch for. So we're working with a lot of acupuncturists who are who are seeing this as an extension of their practice, and placing the patches on their patients in between their sessions, and just kind of letting them go home, continuing the therapy outside of the office.
Yeah, letting them heal. This is fascinating. And what
Mhm.
really caught my attention was when you talked about the systems in our body that are impacted. Can you explain, you put this device on, it's made out of certain materials that are powerful, nanotechnology that brings the light in, and then how is it impacting our systems in our body and what?
Thank you for pointing. I kind of completely skipped a really important part of how it actually works.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, yeah. So I mentioned, our kind of key solution and the aha moment was this nanomaterial that's inside of this thing. And so this nanomaterial has a unique property that it can capture your body heat. And so we were talking about the spectrum of light. And so heat is kind of another way of saying this is infrared energy. And so it captures your infrared energy from your body. So let's say you place it here. it will capture your heat, and then it would reflect it back into my body. But while it reflects it, it also converts it from just infrared to the entire spectrum of light. So they actually glow in the dark.
Oh,
You can see that, yeah, you can see them. It's a very faint light. But what's really cool about this is while traditional light therapy devices that are the bulky stationary ones, the light in them is much brighter, and our light is much dimmer. However, as we found out, this is actually better. And the analogy that kind of helps understand this better is um, when you're working with the traditional light therapy device for an hour at a doctor's office, or if you have one at home, or for example, if you have an infrared sauna, right? So you're applying this light, a very bright light, for an hour at best, and then you kind of go back to your normal life the way you normally live it. And so it's the equivalent of screaming at your body very, very loud with this really bright light, and then everything just kind of disappears and you go back to the way things were. And by contrast, with Taopatch, the light is dimmer, so it's like you're whispering at your body gently, right? You're working with it, but it's much more consistent. So you keep it on 24/7 after a certain point. And so it really allows your body to integrate this light much better. And so what does it actually mean? So what happens when this light enters your body? And this applies the same with our light therapy as well as any other light therapy. But specifically when the light from Taopatch enters your body, basically it's reminding our central nervous system, so our brain, how it's naturally meant to communicate with the rest of your body. And the best way to well, one important point is that our nerve cells communicate with each other with electricity, but also with light, with photons. And this is, we weren't really taught, at least I wasn't taught this in school. I thought it was always just electricity, but it was shown back in the 70s that nerve cells also use photons to communicate. And so the light that Taopatch emits is very similar to the photons that our nerve cells naturally use. And so it's kind of like a reminder for your nerve cells what proper communication is like. And why is this important? Is because for most of us, this communication is not proper, right? It's not normal. It's not the way it was designed. It's not the way we evolved. And this is because, you know, our life is not what kind of is not how it was naturally intended to be, right? I mean, you can live in places like this as opposed to in nature.
right.
We evolved with the sunlight, right? So we evolved waking up in early morning, going to sleep at night. Now we kind of sit indoors a lot of the time, so we're not exposed to the light frequencies. The food, water, and air that we consume is not
Right.
not what it's supposed to be. The electromagnetic free, like here, I can only imagine how many Wi-Fi networks I'm sitting in the middle of. So all of this disrupts our nervous system, and for some people are much more sensitive to it than others, and there are genetic factors for some neurological conditions, for example, right, like MS or Parkinson's. And so this light reminds us what this communication is naturally supposed to be like. And so the first system that gets affected, as it turns out, is your proprioception system. And proprioception is kind of the orientation and movement of your body in space. So how, you know, the range of motion, the coordination, the um, balance, very important, posture, all of these things are related to proprioception. And so this is the first thing that gets affected. And in our lab, we have a lot of different equipment to measure all sorts of different things. And one of them is balance, your physical balance, how you stand, you know, how your weight moves around as you're standing. And we see in every single case, every person who puts on the patches, we can immediately measure an improvement in your balance and how much more stable you are. So how the amount, this kind of variation as you're standing significantly goes down. And it is particularly noticeable for people whose nervous system is damaged, right? So people with MS, Parkinson's, any kind of balance issues, any neurological issue, this communication between your central nervous system and your body becomes much stronger and more efficient. And that's why the videos you see on our website, taopatch.co, the difference is such a drastic, noticeable one.
Definitely. And I can kind of see now why an athlete would want to use these and keep it a secret for how they have more balance and control within their sport. So that kind of drew me in right away. You said within the stuff that I've studied from you that a lot of pro athletes use it and don't want to share that, like they want to keep it a secret for their talents.
We've been actually quite lucky that well, yes, some of them are quite secretive about it, but many don't mind sharing. And we have quite a few athletes who are our spokespeople. We had 5 Olympic athletes, several world champions, and literally the number one tennis player in the world, probably of all time, publicly kind of stated we're the biggest secret of his career
Wow.
on like international television this summer. This was quite
Oh, that's
quite a good day. Yeah.
so what also drew my attention to this, that it was in the email, the initial email when we were corresponding, you talk about how it impacts our emotions. I can see the focus part with the balance, but what about our spirituality? Where does all this tie in? Because we really do focus on this on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, so there's you know, I think there's the best way to describe it is by looking at the difference between kind of holistic medicine and allopathic or Western medicine. And allopathic Western medicine tends to kind of break our bodies into body parts and systems and symptoms and treats each individual thing individually. And holistic medicine, by contrast, looks at everything holistically. And by everything, I mean, kind of like you're saying, your mental, emotional, physical, and your spiritual kind of being as one whole system. And the main aim, I would say, of all holistic medicine practices is to bring all of you into balance, right? To make you centered, balanced, and in that state, kind of all the other problems, right, or all the symptoms go away. And the main assumption is that once your body and your emotional, mental, spiritual state are in balance, everything else, it's much easier for your body to heal itself because our bodies are more than capable of healing themselves. They're self-healing organisms, and the only reason they don't is because they're out of balance. Like that's the main assumption. I personally strongly believe that. And I think the spiritual self, all of this, right? All of the aspects of our self um, come down to this kind of wholeness and balance, right? And it's and even if you think kind of conceptually the way this thing works, there is no external stimulus, right? It's just basically a mirror and a prism because it's taking one kind of energy and splitting it into a broader spectrum, but it's basically taking your own energy, reflecting it back to you, which then helps you be more balanced, right? What could be more beautiful than that,
True.
right?
Very true, especially when we're out of balance, we notice the difference.
Yeah, yeah. But so I would say the other thing that's noticeable here is it's really hard to describe how exactly it works and how it puts you into that state of centeredness and connection and emotional well-being. But just some of our testimonials really speak for themselves. I mean, I remember a friend of mine I got the patches and he put them on his wife, and he said that she very quickly stopped yelling at him. So
That's
the
true. You have more capacity and you calm down. That's what meditation does. I've heard the same thing with other practices. That's a
yeah.
it's a common one.
Yeah, and I think funny you mentioned this. People who meditate a lot find that immediately as soon as they put the patches on, they feel more centered. So it's and they're people who are more in touch with the people who do yoga, for example, people who are more in touch with their body, feel their body better, so they can kind of right away just feel stronger, more energized, feel more like themselves. And that's one of the things that we keep hearing.
Oh, I love this. So now, Dimitri, I've been using magnet therapy for years, probably like going back to the late 90s and taping stuff on my body. I mentioned that before. But what am I
Mhm.
missing if I'm just using magnet therapy? I know you've kind of described it here pretty thoroughly that yours has light therapy, nanotechnology. Have you had somebody give you like an objection and say, well, if I put a magnet on, it gets rid of the pain? Have you ever talked to somebody like that? What would you say to me if you saw me slapping on a magnet and say, oh, this is good, it's, half the price or whatever? What would you say?
You know, I would say everything is we're all for holistic approaches, right? So if something works, uh, let's keep
Keep
please
going.
use it. Um, but what I would suggest also try if something is new that you haven't tried before, it's definitely worth a shot. And this is kind of one of the big pushbacks we get from people is that, well, it's not a cheap device. A set of three of these, we have several different versions, but it's $300 for a set of three. However, they do work for 2.5 years. So if you break it down to per day cost or even per month cost, it's really pennies, right? It's less than $1 per month. And the the best kind of comeback we have is try it, and if it doesn't work for you, send it back, and we'll happily refund you. We have a full 90-day money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work, it's always worth a shot. However, what we also like to remind people is that this is not a silver bullet, and it also works great with any other therapy. So there's no counter indications, and it doesn't interact with anything else because really it's just light. Like there's nothing electrical about it. So it works great with pacemakers. Even if you go into an MRI machine, you can keep them on. You don't have to, but there's really no reason to stop doing anything else that works. And this could be a great addition, and it's worth kind of trying what works better and then maybe switching to something that works better. Or if it doesn't, you can always switch back.
Yeah, that's why I do this podcast, is to learn what's new out there. And then I saw somewhere in there you really tied in the research and the new Nobel Prize winners that had discovered the technology. It's called quantum dots, which I think is important just to mention this, because this is what's advancing maybe what we might have been using in the past to new technology. So could you talk a little bit about, the the research that's behind it, or, the material, um, just something to take us beyond what we might have known before.
Sure, sure. Well, yeah. So it was actually a really important year for us because the two scientists that discovered or I guess developed the material that we're using called quantum dots, got the Nobel Prize or won the Nobel Prize this year. They discovered it many years ago, but Nobel Prize sometimes takes time to catch up. But the material itself is quite complex and difficult to make and very expensive to make. That's why the devices cost so much, because if you think about it, it's a really difficult thing conceptually, because what we're doing is we're taking a lower frequency energy. So infrared is on the very bottom of the light spectrum, and then we have to increase the frequency of the light or the energy to shoot it back into our body. And so that process, it would be much easier to do it the other way around, to take something higher frequency and then slow it down. It takes actually a lot more energy to speed it up. And so this material is very complicated, and it's nuanced as well, because, and this is where the differences between our different versions come into play. The main difference between the different versions of Taopatch is in the spectrum or the wavelengths of light that they emit. And we were talking about this in the beginning, how there are different benefits to different color of the light, different wavelengths, or the kind of the subspectrums of light. And so what we find is different color has a different benefit. And so, for example, we have a version called Taopatch Emotion, and that version kind of skews on the green side. So the light that it emits is more green than others. And if you think about this, the color, what's the color of the heart chakra?
Is it
Green. Right. So that's that's, I don't want to say like we didn't we didn't make it green because of the color of chakra, but later we kind of realized, like, oh wow, that's an interesting coincidence.
Well, interesting. So I was looking at these. I go to the website. Let's just say that I'm someone, I've got an injury. I go to the website and I want to feel better with Taopatch. I did a questionnaire that kind of gave me guidance on where to go, which I thought was interesting. And also these podcasts really do help people to understand how to use it. So I'll make sure I link everything that you've done within the show notes of this. But let's just say I filled out the questionnaire and they directed me to do the starter pack and the emotion. And so I look at that, and I get 6 patches in the starter pack and 6 in the emotion. So would I have 12 patches in total? Have I got that right?
I think it would be 3 and 3.
3 and 3. Okay. 3 and 3. And so then I've got 6 patches, and then they go in the shower. I can swim. How long did these, and they last 2.5 years? So is that 3 patches last me 2.5 years each, or yeah?
Yeah, well, so it depends on how you use them, or how many patches rather you use at once. So at the very minimum, you need 2 patches. Their first one, and this is, by the way, all of this is the trial and error that we've done over the last almost a decade. The first patch goes on your sternum or your REM meridian from Chinese medicine. And there are a couple of different versions, lower or higher on your sternum. And the second one goes on just under your C7, which is your conception vessel meridian in Chinese medicine. And these are the kind of 2 main meridians that seem to control a lot of the other systems. And so these are the 2 basic rebalance points. And I would say two-thirds roughly of the benefits would come from just these 2 points. So just placing them here would accomplish a lot of the overall kind of that balancing and holistic wellness that we were talking about. And then we also have a lot of different more nuanced protocols, some of which require 3 patches and some which require even more. And And this is where you kind of fine tune and focus on specific things. For example, we have protocols for um, a liver detox or a kidney tonification, or there's a sports performance protocol. So for athletes, there are different points for during the games. There are different points for recovery after the activity, and so on and so on. So it gets really pretty detailed, and depending on the results you're looking to achieve, we can get very nuanced, or it can be very simple as well. So it's a really versatile tool in your overall holistic arsenal.
Well, Dmitri, I'm definitely going to try this out. And what I'm going to do is I'll do an update of what I've noticed after using it. So I'll definitely get the starter and the emotion one. And I wish I was like more of a pro athlete, or I knew somebody that we could test it on, but we're not pro athletes here. We just need more focus and balance in our day type of thing. So that's what I'll try out. And so you've also mentioned that you'd be willing to give a coupon code to anyone that listens that also wants to try it out, because that's something you're willing to do. So I'll make sure I put the link to
Please.
your coupon in the show notes when I release this. Dmitri, we've gone deep into this. I think I understand now how to use it. I'm definitely going to try it out, and I'll do a follow-up to this. Have I missed anything that's important that someone new you were talking to? Have I missed anything that we should cover?
No, I think we covered just about everything. Thank you so much for all the detailed and great questions. I would say, if you're a listener and you're looking to get started, yes, we'll include the coupon in the show notes, but just go to our website, taopatch.co, and use the code, and on the checkout, use the code Neuroscience.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and again, try it. But one thing I really want to mention, we have an incredible customer care team. So if you have any questions before or after you try the product, we're always there. You can call us, email us, chat with us, and we really pride ourselves on our customer obsession, and going kind of above and beyond and making sure that we find the perfect placement for you. Because really, initially, for the first few years of our history, the only way for you to even buy the patches would be to work with a doctor or one of the practitioners that works with Taopatches. And kind of where I got involved a few years ago is streamlining the overall experience and simplifying the instruction, and creating this kind of online structure where we can now ship it to your door. So
Wonderful.
we're always here, and we'll be very happy to support.
Well, I look forward to trying this out. And for people that want to connect with you, so you say your website is taopatch.co, and we can also find you if people have questions. Would it be through Taopatch customer service? Is that the best place?
Yeah, if you go to taopatch.co, at the very bottom of our site, we have the phone number, we have all the social media, our email, and live chat as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for
Thank
bringing
you very
this
much.
to our awareness. This is exciting new technology. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Some final thoughts? There's always so much more than our eyes can see or our ears can hear with each guest we interview. After this interview, Dmitri and I chatted about what they're developing next, and I've got to say, they're on the cutting edge of accessing information to help the world. While I'm editing this episode, I'm also working on our top episodes from 2023 that included the Silva method at the top, and in part 4 of this series, we quoted Napoleon Hill, who said, "A genius is a man who has discovered how to increase the intensity of thought to a point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through the ordinary rate of thought. The future is here, and this is being done to advance the world forward." If you want to try Taopatch along with me, go to their website and you can browse through the testimonials, case studies, and research. Since I'm currently using the Qualia Mind product for focus, I decided to begin with the Taopatch Start and see what I notice. You can go to their website and on checkout, you can put in the code Neuroscience. And I'll come back with an episode with what I noticed from Taopatch. Stay tuned for this update. Now, what I think is interesting is that as we're learning from each episode together here, the knowledge we're gaining is all connected. We just covered the importance of opening up our heart chakra with Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, and now we learn from the Taopatch Start product that it emits the green light frequency, which is the color of the heart chakra. Everything we're learning here is helping us to build a stronger 2.0 version of ourselves, and knowledge really is power when it's put into use. This is our last episode of Season 10 of the podcast and of 2023. I'll see you next week as we come back with an overview of the top 10 episodes from 2023 as chosen by you and part 5 of our review of Wallace D. Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. Have a safe and happy new year, and I'll see you in 2024 with Season 11 of the Neuroscience Meets Social and Emotional Learning podcast.